After walking barefoot across the city and making headlines, the first thing my boyfriend said was, "Why do you look so embarrassing?" The day I walked into the city barefoot, I was on the news. The Cheney family's adopted daughter was kidnapped for months. She escaped back, dirty and smelly, with clothes torn apart and feet covered in bruises. No one could imagine what she had been through. Countless cameras focused on me. I watched the crowd like a walking death, as if there was no soul in me. The former Audrey Houston died. That shiny, innocent, and passionate Audrey had gone. She was destroyed by those kidnappers, especially Jeffrey Cheney. Soon a group of bodyguards dressed in black suits made their way into the crowd. The leader was called Cash Pearson. I knew him. In those 7 years, every time I pestered Jeffrey, it was him kicking me out of Jeffrey's office and apartment. Cash never showed politeness to me as Jeffrey ordered. "Miss Houston, Mr. Cheney is waiting for you in the car. Please." Cash was surprised to see me in such an embarrassed state. He didn't expect me to look this miserable. I nodded and took a step out of my injured foot, leaving blood-stained footprints on the road. I couldn't feel pain, and this small distance was not worth mentioning compared to my long journey of escaping. Cash walked behind me. He couldn't help but say to me, "Miss Houston." I kept silent. Once there, he pitied me. He should be happy that after this accident, I would never see Jeffrey again, nor would I cause Cash trouble. After getting into the car, I saw Jeffrey sitting on the seat with his eyes closed. His fine black hair was well-groomed, and his delicate face was perfect. Well, during the time I disappeared, he must have felt unprecedented peace and relaxation. Now he was in such an excellent state. Hearing the noise, Jeffrey opened his eyes. The moment he saw me, he almost didn't recognize me, Audrey. I nodded. I'd learned my lesson. In the past, I didn't care about the identity of the Cheney family's adopted daughter. I thought I was their real daughter, proud and domineering. But now, after I was kidnapped, I realized that my life was in the hands of the Cheney family. As long as Jeffrey refused to pay, I was doomed. He frowned a little displeased. "How did you end up like this?" "Ended up like what, beggar?" "Besides the kidnappers, I had to watch the beasts in the mountains. When I was thirsty, I drank rainwater. When I was hungry, I went to rummage through the garbage on the side of the road. Nobody could stay rational in such a circumstance. I knew that he was blaming me for appearing in front of the media like this. It would bring trouble to his company, the Cheney family's company to be precise. Sorry. I was sorry for causing Jeffrey trouble." Jeffrey heard me say this. He felt stunned at first, and then the corner of his lips hooked into a smile. "She's right, you've learned your lesson." When the car door closed, Jeffrey suddenly stretched out his long arm towards me. I instinctively resisted and cowered towards the corner. He then stopped and said in a disgusted tone, "Audrey, you are smelly." I didn't know if it was because of the confined space inside the car. Jeffrey finally sensed the unpleasant odor on my body. It was the smell of fermentation after mixing blood and sweat, rolling on the ground and rummaging through the garbage. Hearing Jeffrey's words, I subconsciously left the seat. The car drove unsteadily and I fell from the seat. "I am sorry, I won't dirty the seat. I just need to. I just needed to kneel here." It hurt so much on my knees. There were still bloody holes made by those kidnappers with thin steel needles. They blamed me for not getting money. To Jeffrey, I was nothing. They took it out on me to vent their anger. I couldn't stand up and simply sat on my knees in that small space. Jeffrey got angered. "What are you doing?" "Go back to your seat," he ordered me. But he didn't bother to help me. I listened to his words. I used all my strength to hold my body up and sit back down. My tears fell due to the pain and weakness. Jeffrey always neglected my tears. He felt bored. But this time he threw his handkerchief at me. I clutched that piece of clean white handkerchief. If it was before, I would feel happy as hell. But now that handkerchief only showed his disgust. Cash looked at me from the rearview mirror. I lowered my head.